Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast, the place where poetry meets conversation. I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and before we get into today's topic, make sure you hit that plus sign so you don't miss an episode. Also, please subscribe to my blog, theBrownSugarCafe.blog, and if you find any value in this episode or any other episodes, make sure you leave a heartfelt review. So with that being said, let's get to it. What's up, everybody? Hope that everyone's doing well. Hope that you're enjoying the spring weather. Finally, looks like we're getting into the spring part of things. It's National Poetry Month. Didn't do anything on the podcast all month about Poetry Month. I may have a poem at the end. We'll see. But today I want to talk about boundaries, or some people call them non-negotiables. Standards as well. Now, I'll say this. We all should have non-negotiables. We all should have standards. We all should have boundaries. We all should have things that we will not accept. First and foremost, I want to say that. But there's an expiration date to everything. And what I've been seeing and what I'm noticing is that maybe some of these non-negotiables need to be renegotiated because we're all at different stages in our life. We've all hopefully grown and not gone backwards, but some of those non negotiables, some of those standards, some of those boundaries we set years ago, could even be a couple of months ago, might not be serving us from where we are now. And you could be holding yourself up from something better than where you are. We get rid of a lot of things. We get rid of a lot of baggage, right? We always talk about getting rid of baggage. Don't bring your baggage into your next situation, your next job, your next relationship, yada yada yada. But we don't look at the positive things that we're doing that could be holding us back as well. It's a lot of things that you probably said that you weren't going to do, and we all have had this. Things that we say that we wouldn't do, things that we said we would never do, or you wouldn't catch me doing this. And some of it has come from a judgmental standpoint. When you see somebody else doing it, you're like, nah, that couldn't be me. But some of us that has been us. And then this is from a standpoint of just kind of reflecting some things that might have been cool for you 5 years ago, might not be cool for you now. Certain level of things that you thought you might have needed, maybe these standards, these non-negotiables might not have even been serving you to begin with. Like, where are you getting these non-negotiables from? Is it from things that you personally feel that this non-negotiable, or is it something that you've seen, something that you've read, or is it somebody else's list of non-negotiables that you're like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm not going to stand for that either in X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to stand for this. I'm not going to allow that. But are you really looking at these standards, these boundaries, and non negotiables and seeing if they apply to your life? Are you even going back and taking an assessment for things that you might have had in place 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago that were non negotiables? And now you're at a different point in your life. You're at a different season in your life. You're at a different stage in your life where things have changed. The things that you said you wouldn't stand for, your non negotiables, your boundaries, your standards. None of us have it all figured out. You can plan and plan and plan. And for the most part, planning will be successful. But there's always a curve somewhere. There's always a hiccup somewhere that may get you off balance, that may throw you off track. And it's okay, those things happen. And maybe you had a non-negotiable or a standard that you didn't stick with. And the result of that was, something that's completely off, something happening negative. And now you have this mindset, see, I shouldn't have let this or that happen. Maybe that was that point in that time in your life, but maybe now that non-negotiable really doesn't serve you. What's interesting is I was having a conversation the other day with my wife, and we were talking about this because, the thought just came up to me how some people just seem so angry. And it's because they have these standards set that soon as someone doesn't, goes out of that little standard or goes out of that certain boundary, they instantly snap. And it's like they're taking all the aggression out on that person when it's really the situation or person who caused this sort of non-negotiable or this boundary to be set in place to begin with. And it's like I started thinking like, are your non-negotiables, your boundaries, your standards, whatever you want to call them, are they serving you in a point in your life where it's actually benefiting your life? Or are these things actually hindering the growth and different things, the positive things that could be happening in your life because you're in a different season? And so a couple of days after we were talking about this, um, I saw on Instagram, it's a therapist. I can't remember her name right now, but she had a post that was spot on to what I was thinking. And it says that you have changed, but your rules haven't. You are still operating by a set of rules that serve a different version of yourself. And so that's all I want us to think about when it comes to these things. Are these rules, standards, non-negotiables, boundaries, etc., are these things serving us for where we are in our life now? Or are these things serving us for where we want to go, where we're trying to get, who we want to be, and how we're trying to get there? So it's not always the bad stuff that keep us from growing. It's some of the things that are healthy, some of the things that are great, that are pleasant, impactful, that keep us hindered because we're at different seasons in our life and it's time for us to change our mindsets. And in some cases, it's time for us to level up. You're on a certain level with these ideas, these standards, these rules, these different things that you won't or will not do. And that's cool for that particular season. But are you looking back? Are you checking to see if these things still serve you? Before I go, I want to leave you all with a poem. I said I probably would. And so, hey, this particular poem was a word prompt poem. And the prompt was a pinprick of sunlight. An ounce of hope can penetrate tons of disparity. That's all it takes to cut through the weight of believing you fit inside a precarious box. A glimpse of hope is enough to see through the cloudiness of confusion. That's all it takes to bring clarity to vision. A slight turn of hope can change life's direction. That's all it takes to head down the right path. A pinprick of sunlight through the trees can shine like a spotlight. That's all it takes to illuminate everything around you. All is never lost. The simplest amount of hope will help you find your way. If you want to check out the other poems I did for National Poetry Month, head over to my Instagram page. It's at the Brown Sugar Cafe. Also, make sure to subscribe to my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. I post a poem every Wednesday. You can find my books on Amazon and also in my shop. My books are called, the first one is Love Letters, a collection of poems, and the second one is called The Essence of Love. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and this is the place where poetry meets conversation. Hit that follow button and turn on your notifications so you won't miss an episode. Check out my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. Also connect with me on Instagram at thebrownsugarcafe. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, remember, keep pushing forward.